It is important to understand the context in which we went into the budget. India Inc. remains challenged by a global slowdown, uncontrolled inflation, constrained liquidity, and topping it all, instability in tax policies and ensuing litigation. The adversarial tax regime had resulted in a slowdown in the investment cycle, with a crying need for policy related action to put the economy back on the growth trajectory. Essentially, today, higher tax and duties were on everyone's mind, including FIIs. As we went into the budget, the biggest worries were imposition of commodities transaction tax, raising of the service and excise tax, an inheritance tax or a bringing back of the erstwhile estate tax, increase in wealth tax, and a higher tax on the super rich. And in terms of expectations, the biggest expectations today were a hope that there would be some reduction in the securities transaction tax so that more retail investors would come into the capital markets, some enhancements in the RGESS scheme, something for the SMEs, hoping that the GST would get implemented in the medium-term future, and an unreasonable hope perhaps that there could be some reduction in the short-term capital gains tax from 15 to 10% to boost capital market sentiments. We believe the FM has walked the tightrope with acumen and done the best he could under the circumstances. Recognizing that the investment cycle has significantly slowed down, having a ripple effect on both employment generation and industrial growth, he has had the dilemma of how to increase revenues while at the same time encouraging the business investment and boosting consumer spending. His main dilemma today has been how does he raise taxes while keeping the voters happy? How does he boost investment and business confidence and present an anti-adversarial stance on the part of the tax department? How does he provide stability in tax polity? How does he stimulate the investment cycle? We feel he has reasonably achieved the set objectives on the tax front. And here's what he has done. On the direct tax front, he has wooed the voters by resisting the temptation to tinker with the income tax slabs. Acknowledging the effect of inflation on the first tax slab, he has given a nominal tax credit of rupees 2,000 on taxable incomes up to 5 lakh to account for the inflation effect for up to 20,000 rupees. He has announced additional incentives for prospective first-time homeowners, where a person buying his first house up to 25 lakhs is going to get an additional exemption up to of interest deduction of rupees 1 lakh in additional to the erstwhile 1.5 lakh already permissible. He has desisted from levying either an inheritance tax or an estate duty, which we believe is commendable. Instead of raising taxes on the super rich, he has introduced a temporary levy of 10% surcharge, and that too on taxpayers with a taxable income of rupees 1 crore and above. Given that he has suggested that this is going to be a temporary levy only for a period of 1 year, we feel this approach is very balanced. He has also taken various steps to deepen the capital markets and attempt to divert the retail savings away from gold to capital markets and insurance. RGESS has been liberalized to include MFs as well as listed shares. He has increased the investment period up to 3 successive years. The income limit has also been enhanced from 10 to 12 lakhs. We believe with these 3 boosters, RGESS becomes a little more effective in terms of boosting the capital market sentiment. More importantly, recognizing the negative real interest rates in the economy due to the high inflation, which is why most financial savings are going into the real estate sector or gold, he has proposed to introduce inflation-linked bonds and inflation-linked national savings certificates to hedge investors against inflation. This, we think, will be a deterrent to gold in the long term. On the corporate front, he has proposed to temporarily increase the surcharge from 5 to 10% to domestic companies whose income exceeds 10 crores per year. In the case of foreign companies who pay a higher corporate tax, surcharge is being increased from 2 to 5%. Similarly, in other cases such as dividend distribution tax, the current surcharge has again been doubled from 5 to 10%. Here again, the intent is for it to be a temporary charge for a period of 1 year. It remains to be seen whether he can keep up this promise. One of the challenges has been that while GDP growth for this year has been estimated at 5%, the growth in the manufacturing sector has been a paltry 0.5%. Recognizing that no large economy can become truly developed without a robust manufacturing sector, he has proposed to provide an investment allowance at the rate of 15% to a manufacturing company which invests more than 100 crore rupees in the next 2 years, starting 1/3/2013, which will be in addition to depreciation. We believe this should be a significant kicker for the investment cycle and should boost capital investments, provided he can, outside of the budget cycle, identify ways to cut down on the number of approvals and fasten the entire approval cycle for industries. In addition to the above measures, the FM has also taken a few smart steps to plug a lot of tax loopholes currently there. In one stroke, he has plugged the tax arbitrage used by retail investors, where they would invest in dividend schemes of non-equity funds to avail of lower tax rates. Now, the dividend tax on even money market funds or non-equity funds stands raised from 12.5% to 25%, bringing tax parity between mutual funds in the debt segment and investments in fixed deposits. We believe this should increase flows to the banking sector. Secondly, he has brought into the tax ambit all real estate transactions. Transactions in immovable properties were usually undervalued, underreported, and a conduit for black money. One half of the transactions would not carry any PAN details of the parties concerned. With a view to improve the reporting of such transactions and bring them within the ambit of tax, he has brought back the proposal to apply TDS at the rate of 1% on the value of transfer of immovable property where the consideration exceeds rupees 50 lakhs. This, however, he has exempted agricultural land from. Thirdly, there have been some unfortunate instances where companies used to bypass the dividend distribution tax by indulging in buyback of shares. He has plugged this anomaly by a levy of a final withholding tax of 20% on profits distributed by unlisted companies to shareholders through buyback of shares. And lastly, he has plugged the disparity in TDS rates on the increasing royalty payouts to foreign parents of Indian subsidiaries. He has proposed to increase the rate of tax on payments by way of royalty and fees on technical services or royalties to non-residents from 10% to 25%. However, the applicable rate will be the rate of tax stipulated in the double taxation agreement treaties. On the indirect taxes, he has resisted the temptation to raise service tax and excise duties by another 1 to 2%. And he has instead held steady. So overall, I think even on the indirect tax front, it is an attempt to woo voters. It is good for industry. The smart thing which has been done here is to bring more than 10 lakh service tax assessees under the service tax net. He has offered a one-time amnesty scheme for them to pay up the arrears of service tax without any interest or penalty. We believe this step should help shore up the indirect tax base. From an industry perspective, the FM has been very vocal in committing to enablers for business confidence, which we perceived as being very important this year. He has committed to clarity in tax laws, a stable tax regime, a non-adversarial tax administration, a fair mechanism for dispute resolution, and an independent judiciary which will provide a good assurance of fairness. He has done two things which we believe are good for the corporate sector and foreign investors. He has proposed to incorporate the modified provisions recommended in the GAR with effect from 1/4/2016 and roll it out as a prospective levy rather than a retrospective one. He has also moved towards lending certainty in the tax regime by committing to come out with a circular which will offer safe harbor rules for development centers and IT sector. This, we believe, should enable Indian development centers to effectively compete for business with other global competitors. Most importantly, on DTC and GST, he has made the following announcements. One, on DTC, he has offered to table the revised DTC bill in the current budget session. From the intent, we believe that there is a desire to progress fast on the direct tax code, which has been long delayed. On the GST, he has accelerated the tempo by advising an allocation of rupees 9,000 crores as compensation to states in the coming year. And he has implored them to pass this in the next year. Lastly, to boost the capital markets, he has announced a commodities transaction tax and reduced the levy of STT on equity derivatives. This effectively reduces the impact cost arbitrage between the commodities and the equity market. And we believe that this should encourage flows which were earlier being diverted to the commodities market. Thus, to sum it up, I think the FM has been very smart, and we believe that he will be very effective in his choice of avenues on the tax front. The public has no reason to complain. Thank you.